I really like what Pat Narduzzi has done to the Pitt program, and I think that they're in a good place to compete once again. It's just a matter of a few positions figuring things out and some transfers elevating their game. Today, we take a look at the 10 players that are going to make life a lot easier for them and help elevate this program in 2023. We have to start with the defense because the defense loses quite a bit of talent, most specifically Kalijah Cansey. Now, David Green can step into that role, but no one is going to be Kalijah Cansey. I don't think anybody has the ability to do that. He was so explosive, and that's just really hard to replicate. However, David Green is someone who can be a productive playmaker and was last year. 4.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks in his limited time. And I think that he can take a step forward and be even better. This is a group that was one of the best in college football. You look at their stats, there was really only one or two categories that they were not great at, and stopping the run wasn't one of them. They finished eighth in the country in running yards allowed per game, and that's really where they set the tone. They set the tone up front, and that's really what's going to help this group again in 2023. Speaking of the run, Rodney Hammond Jr. has a great opportunity to replace Israel Abanikanda in the running back position in running the football. And this was a group that was pretty solid at running the ball. It finished 42nd in yards per game. I think that this running attack will have to play a bigger role in 2023. I don't know what the wide receiver group looks like. We are not really sure what we're going to get from them, but there's still some exciting talent. It just might be that this rushing attack has to take a step forward. And I think the staff is really excited about what Rodney Hammond can do. It's just a matter of is he able to take that step forward. Now, another group that can elevate their game is the secondary. You look at what this group did last year, they finished 77th in yards per game. That is a group that could be better, but you've seen the explosive playmaking ability, and we'll talk about a few guys today, starting with MARQUIS Williams, a veteran player who's been around the program for a while. He is back for yet another season as the starting cornerback and someone who I think honestly can help. The best way he can help really is elevating the guys around him, and there's plenty of talent to do that. And one of those guys that's he's going to help is AJ Woods. Now, I think AJ Woods is a little bit better player and he's going to rotate in because this is a deep group. I think that this is a group that has the ability to be significantly better in 2023. And Woods is one of those guys, 13 passes defended, one interception. Again, he is not the best corner on this team, but he is someone who's going to fit into the mix, fit into that rotation. Now, the secondary, like I said, the safety position also needs some work, but I think that they returned plenty of exciting talent. And that's really exciting if you're a Pitt fan because you know, even though last year was a little bit of struggle, you need this group to take a step forward, mostly because of the talent they lose in the front seven. But this is a secondary that is going to face some pretty talented players, and you're going to have to be able to get the ball back to your offense. One of those players on the offense that will make life miserable for other teams, I think, is Gavin Bartholomew, 6'5" tight end. I really like what he can do. We've seen some exciting plays from him. It's just we haven't seen it consistently. Now, whether that is the offense or if it's just him not being consistent, I think it's a little bit of both. But if you're looking at someone who could be a big time playmaker for this offense, it's Gavin Bartholomew. You look at the tight end position is such a great advantage for most offenses. And if they're able to utilize that in the right way, now when you look at this new offense coming in, I think that this passing attack should be good. I think that they should be a more consistent group. It obviously depends on what Phil Jurkovec can do and if he can stay healthy. But I think the pass catchers, even though they're relatively unknown right now, or I should say, haven't proven their consistency, proven that they have this higher ceiling. We'll wait and see, but I think that there's potential there. Another guy we'll talk about is KONATA MUMPFIELD. 551 yards last year, one touchdown, average under 10 yards per catch. You don't really like to see that in terms of if you're looking for explosiveness, but he's someone who can be a playmaker for them. Now, whether that's a reliable playmaker or an explosive playmaker, we will see. I think that this offense, like I said, has potential, but I don't know how much potential it actually will show. It's just a matter of what do certain players do. And like I said, Ronnie Hammond at running back could be a dynamic weapon for this offense. Gavin Bartholomew is the same way. It's just a matter of consistently producing. And that's been, it's going to be a question this year. And the talent on paper I should say, is there. I think that when you look at this team on paper, you think, yes, this is a good offense. It's just a matter of finding that player. And it's been hard ever since Jordan Addison left, obviously. But I think that you have the ability to move on and you're fitting into what you want as an identity. You can find those playmakers that can step up, and the talent they have returning should make that pretty easy to do. Now, we also talked about the amount of losses they sustained on defense, specifically in the front seven. I think that this is going to be a tough transition to make because they have so many veteran players. Servasia Dennis, Kalijah Cansey. You look at all these players that made a ton of plays for this defense, and that makes life very difficult for guys like Shane Simon. Now, Shane had 46 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Now you have to take on that leadership role. You have to take on a bigger role than maybe you're used to. And that's a big thing to ask of a player who is maybe more of a role player last year. But Pitt has done a great job of elevating guys into those positions, putting them in successful spots. And I think that even though it's going to be a new group that's learning, you're still going to, I think the culture essentially that they've built, that Narduzzi's built, will make life fairly easy to help that transition. And Simon's just one of those players that can make that happen. That's going to be a big question, and it's going to be a way to win the trenches if you're able to elevate those guys. And a big thing that they're able to do is they're going to face some of the better players in the conference in the trenches as well on the other side of the ball. And Jake Kradel is a guard who's been a guy on everybody's watch list. If you're an ACC team, you know who he is, you know what he's capable of doing, and that's going to help this defense as well. It's also going to help the offense. The skill position players, like I said, they need some time to get acclimated to their new roles, to this new system, and to their new quarterback. That's going to be something that takes some time. And Cradle's just one of those players that can help that transition. And if this offensive line can be consistent and can help this offense and help everybody get acclimated, then that's something that makes this group better as a whole. We talked about cornerback before, and one of my favorite players in the ACC, a super underrated player, is MJ Devonshire. You look at what he did in the West Virginia game. If you don't, go back and watch the West Virginia game in week 1. That was really exciting. We saw what he could do. We saw his potential, and we saw the big time playmaking ability. He had 3 interceptions last year. 2 of them were taken back for touchdown, including one big one against West Virginia. Again, and I'm probably going to go watch it now after I'm done recording this because that's how exciting it was. Pitt was able to create a tremendous atmosphere in that game, that rivalry game, which, by the way, that game should be played every single year. If that's what we get every single year. I even if the game wasn't as entertaining as it was last year, that atmosphere was electric. And now Devonshire added to that because of his play, and he is someone that is going to be on the radar for a lot of NFL teams if he continues on that trajectory. He is someone who can be an NFL guy, and that's huge because Pat Narduzzi has produced, I should say, some of the better players we've seen at defensive back and some players that we've seen be absolute studs at the college level. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. Now, the biggest question is what does Phil Jurkovec do in this offense? He comes over to reunite with his former OC, and now he has arguably more talent than he did at Boston College. Now, maybe there's probably not anybody on this roster that is Zay Flowers, but outside of Zay Flowers, he really didn't have much. He never really had that go-to guy outside of his number one option. He should have number one, number two, and number three at least in this offense, and that's going to help his game. Now, like I said before, he has to stay healthy. That is going to be the biggest thing for this team. That is going to be the biggest thing for Pitt and for Jurkovec. If you're able to stay healthy, then you're going to be okay. I think that this is a group that could be tremendously successful if Jurkovec can stay healthy and find some chemistry with these guys. We talked about MUMPFIELD, we talked about Bartholomew, we talked about Hammond. I think those three, there's a lot of potential. There are steps that all three of those guys can take, and that helps this offense. Now, Jurkovec provides a steady hand. He has been playing college football for a while. He's a veteran leader that can help some of these players, and it would be fun to see what he can do in this offense to help these guys and give them kind of that guidance of where they need to go. Because this team, even though they lose quite a bit of talent, should still be pretty good. This is a team that will not be easy to beat. They will not go down without a fight. And it's just a matter of elevating certain positions to help them out. Narduzzi has done a great job at Pitt. And I wish they could go back to the offense they ran with Kenny Pickett, but those days are probably gone. And we're just going to have to settle for what we got now. And if you're settling for a group that's pretty solid, I don't think you have too many complaints. This is going to be a really fun year for Pitt. There's a lot of potential in this group. There's a lot of potential in this roster, and it'll be interesting to see how they turn that potential into production.